I'm so excited to be here talking about my favorite things, technology, fashion, and design. We have an amazing panel ahead of us. We have Amanda from Manufacture New York, Scott from SCOTTeVEST, and Adam from MightyCast. I'm going to hand it right over. Let's start doing a little demo so we can understand the brand behind your perspective. Who wants to go first? Scott?
Want me to? Oh, go ahead.
I'm Scott Jordan with SCOTTeVEST. I have a really different approach to wearables. Basically, my approach is to design clothing that can accommodate all the electronics that you would otherwise want to carry. So I've got my cell phone pockets. I've got pockets here in this new jacket for a full-size iPad. And I got a pocket here for a full-size laptop. And it just never ends. I got cords and water bottles and all the things you would otherwise want to carry. I started SCOTTeVEST 15 years ago about this premise of design clothing that can accommodate the electronic devices and other things that you want to carry rather than embedding the electronics into the clothing itself. And we've been tremendously successful ever since. I'm looking forward to being on the panel.
Thank you so much. I think that maybe we should go over to Adam.
Sure. My name is Adam Adelman. I work with MightyCast. And we're here at CES introducing our Next Band. And the Next Band is a modular, hackable smart band. So what that means is we have 5 different mods, and it's 5 little shortcut buttons on your wrist. So each one of the mods is removable, they're shareable, so you can store all sorts of different content on there. There could be movies, photos, videos, songs. But no matter what the content that's on one of these mods, they're all hackable. So for example, if I wanted to double tap this middle mod, I've just turned my band into a music controller. And my middle mod is play. This is song forward, song back, and volume up, volume down. But I could just as easily change that band and have it turn on my coffee machine, or let me know every time the Yankees score a run with a light pattern that I create, or let me know when a friend is nearby, or control my lights, or anything like that. And the way we designed it was to be very, very simple to hack. So each hack takes about 5 seconds to make, so you don't have to be a developer, you don't have to rely on third-party applications, and you can create and control anything that's important to you.
Incredible. Thank you so much. Amanda, do we have some slides ready?
I can do an intro if that.
That'd be great.
Okay, yeah, I'll just. Yeah. So I'm Amanda Parks. I'm the Chief of Technology and Research at Manufacture New York, which is a hybrid fashion incubator for emerging brands and fashion tech companies, as well as a manufacturing space for apparel, as well as a technology R&D lab, which is what I run. I've been in the wearable space for about 12 years. Started when did academic work at the MIT Media Lab, a PhD in the space, before it was sort of consumer-facing. And I've since become sort of a bridge between the fashion and technology worlds, and am very much looking at next generation wearables from a perspective of new materiality. So really e-textiles, smart textiles, and biology. So very much focused on biofabrication, how we can use different kinds of growth patterns, use different kinds of, the characteristics of materials to reconfigure and rematerialize circuitry. And so kind of next generation ideas that are about enabling technologies for what we will see at CES probably in 10 years. We need things like the USB connector of fibers. What is that? That's a huge idea. We're working on things like fiber batteries, which is, you can imagine if all of your clothing is all a battery, you don't have to worry that much about charging things. You weave it together with a solar fiber, you have a passive energy system that's continuously being recharged. And so things like that. We have 3 companies in our incubator right now. One of them is here with me today, Thesis Couture, which is redesigning the stiletto from the inside out. It's basically a kind of SpaceX spinoff using this model of the Tesla model of actually just kind of starting from scratch, fully new manufacturing processes, new materials to make comfortable high heels, but we never use that word because they're still very sexy. These are on display at the Refinery 29 suite. During CES, and a couple other companies that are working, for instance, in hydrophobic nanotechnology process coating of textiles. So not everything we do is in electronics. I do a lot of that work, but a whole kind of range of things about new materiality in wearables.
You can see we have a lot to talk about. You all have very different perspectives on wearables. Scott, I want to go back to you because It wasn't until I did my research on you that I had heard of Pocket Revolution, and being in the fashion industry, I was kind of blown away. Talk to us about Pocket Revolution and how that is reflective of your approach to wearables.
Yeah, well, I believe that pockets are sort of an afterthought for most fashion designers and clothing designers. First, the most important thing was, what were clothing intended to do is protect you from the elements. And then they were like, okay, well, let's make it fashionable. And then someone says, let's slap a pocket on it, without taking into consideration what was going to go into that pocket. And so for me, as a gadget guy, and before I started SCOTTeVEST, I was a lawyer, and I was frustrated with having to use a fanny pack or a backpack or any number of things. And I looked at clothing, and I said, I could engineer clothing to carry all the things I would otherwise want to carry, if I do it smartly and I really think about the ergonomics of the pocket. And I've been doing this now for 15 years, and I don't think any other clothing designer has been focusing as much attention in the design of pockets. So to me, you can design clothing as it is. You take into account the weight management and other issues that come about, and designing so that when you bend over, things don't fall out. That pockets are designed to enable you to feel your phone vibrate when it does vibrate. We actually have very completely opposite impressions of what clothing should be, and I'm always fascinated about.
Not entirely. Can I?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I fully appreciate this whole nature of using clothing as functional design. I mean, this is what it's for in its essence. But I think one of the things that's been missing and that's been really lost in the development of many wearables is this kind of notion. Oh, hello. This notion of how fashion functions in our society, which is it's a means of personal expression. It is a sense of how you project yourself individually. What you want people to think of you. It's a means of communication, and so in a sense, there's a whole other landscape where you can have the functionality, but you can also have a whole aesthetic drive. So, for instance, I would never wear that vest. Like, no offense, it's great for you. But fashion itself is about diversity and a form of personal expression. So if you want to is there a version of this that has maybe some level of functionality about pockets, but also has a different kind of aesthetic that would relate to who I am, right?
And so that's the most difficult part in the impression of clothing that can be functional. It can also be extremely attractive, as you've seen,
yes.
Jenna.
Well, I think this is what I love about technology, is when you get people from the tech world and fashion world in a room, we have so many different opinions of what wearable tech is. And I think that a lot of people are thinking 5 to 10 years from now and thinking about, what are we going to be wearing then? And then some people are thinking about, what do we have now and how can we use what we have now and sort of integrate it into what we already understand as clothing. You're creating a different type of vest. You're creating a different type of jacket that doesn't have technology interwoven into the fabric. But we're at two very different places, right? We kind of all feel this in the digital world, where we're here, but we're always over there. So it's really fascinating. I think that, Adam, you have an amazing understanding of what it is to live in the wearable tech world, too, because you're thinking about millennials, which are right now and also the future of the market.
Yeah, so our focus is on the Gen Z market, the millennial market, so anywhere from 13 years old up until college age. So this is really the generation that grew up with the iPad and grew up with the iPhone. And in school, they're already coding in Python or using Raspberry Pis, and they're very, very used to creating their own experiences. And the word now for hacking is it's always historically been a pejorative word, but now there are IKEA hacks and life hacks, and so we're trying to embrace that and allowing people to hack their own experiences. And so we think that 2016 is going to be all about customization and personalization, and I think that's been a bit lacking so far in the market. In the past in wearables.
Well, it's really fascinating how you have combined storytelling with wearables. You do tracking, but in a different way. And I was really inspired by the conversation about having a wearable that's living, something that we can share. Can you talk about how you interchange and how you can exchange?
Yeah, so when you mention tracking, the first thought I have is activity tracking, which we do. So You can hack your mod to start your activity tracking and follow your steps and light up when you reach your goals and things like that. But because we're modular and we're shareable, these mods are living things. And they all exist in the cloud. And if I were to share it with somebody, I can attach a photo with it, or I can attach a journal entry to it, and I can give it to a friend, and maybe that friend travels to another country, and then they attach another piece of content to it, and then they travel to another place, and you can always see where this mod has been and what experience it's gone through. So it's like a living thing. It's like knowing the full history of the dollar bill that's been in your wallet all the time. So we're trying to mesh those, the digital and physical worlds together through that.
Yeah, I think the millennial audience is really trying desperately hard to figure out how to live in both worlds, so it's great. And also, I think a big thing right now is gaming. So you add another layer. It's wearable, it's tech, and now it's gaming. How did you integrate gaming into a wearable?
So gaming is, again, because we're modular, one of the opportunities we think we have, and this is probably something later on in 2016 once we get to that tipping point with an install base, and that's where the next band can act as a game console on your wrist, and individual mods can act as different weapons or characters or power-ups that exist in a game. So kind of like Skylanders, but again, Skylanders if it were a living thing and something that's shareable. So I have my kids, whenever they play mobile games, it's strange. I always see them, they're playing together, but it's always one person holding the iPhone and three others looking over his shoulder. So what we're trying to do is get people back into physical interaction with each other and sharing and collaborating, and with these living mods, they can share their progress with each other, and it opens up a lot more experiences.
Well, you definitely know how to keep your users stimulated in a lot of different ways. And I want to talk to Ariel too. Welcome, Ariel.
Thank you.
Can you let us know a little bit about Muse first, because we missed the introduction, and then talk to us about how you've blended meditation, kind of the opposite, the unplugging part, into tech and wearable space.
Sure. So this is Muse, the brain sensing headband. It's a fashionable wearable technology device that has a very important function. It helps you meditate. So we're all caught up as tech heads in this world of how can tech make us more connected, busier, do more stuff. This kind of does the opposite. This allows you to unplug and really connect to yourself and understand what's going on inside your own mind. We all know that meditation's good for us, but meditation's really hard to do. And Muse actually makes it easy by giving you real-time feedback on your meditation practice so that you can build your states of focused attention and access all the benefits of meditation.
Incredible. How have you seen what you do really impact people's lives?
Oh my God, it's been incredible.
I can imagine.
So we get emails every day from people who used to be on stress leave and after Musing were able to go back to work, or moms who would realize for the first time that they were never present with their kids in the park because their minds were elsewhere. Or business people, we have lots of organizations that use Muse, demonstrating improvements in their processes and their functions and their productivity.
It's amazing. I think that offering at-home solutions is just incredible, because you make an industry that might otherwise kind of be disconnected from you more connected. How have you seen what you do impact the professional field? Is it something that you work with professionals on?
Yeah, so we, as I mentioned, have a number of businesses who've instituted Muse inside of their companies, and they've seen increases in productivity, decrease in stress in the workplace, decrease in absenteeism. We also work with another kind of professionals, healthcare professionals. We have over 120 different research institutions that use Muse. Mayo Clinic is using it with breast cancer patients to reduce the stress of surgery. Harvard uses it for traumatic brain injury. Psychotherapists, life coaches, et cetera, all using Muse inside of their practices.
It's incredible. Amanda, I'm also really interested in your background in science and what you do with Manufacture New York. I mean, there are so many designers struggling to make it, and you've really, with your background in science, have helped them. What kind of advice do you seem to be giving over and over again?
Well, I think one of the biggest things has been, getting support to ideas that are not necessarily just the next sort of device that can be defined in a one-liner, right? And so thinking about enabling technology, we talk a lot about this, this next generation. And so kind of creating an ecosystem where these ideas can thrive together, and we can sort of get them out there and show that, that they are, first of all, super viable technologies, but also viable as investments. And then the other thing is that, yeah, it's really about communication. You know, we have a whole number of fashion designers just, you know, making regular clothing lines, non-techie, in our space, and having them talk with the technologists creates a whole different kind of product on both sides. And you know, I came from the Media Lab, and I really believe in this sort of interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary design. Space makes a big difference, what you encounter every day, who you see. So having these ecosystems in the same space and working together, like for instance, you know, we did a collaboration with a major technology brand recently that I can't name yet, but one of our designers does zero waste pattern making. And he's an incredible designer, doesn't know anything about technology, but I brought him in on the project and basically upsold what we were doing to also have a zero waste pattern. And this is a technology product that was a clothing product, but this is not something that's part of the ecosystem of a tech company to really go after something that's about sustainability and about waste and all these other metrics. And so, you know, these kinds of natural sort of convergences happen well in that way. And then also we have the manufacturing there. And anybody who's ever worked in manufacturing, any kind of engineering, knows that the closer you are to your manufacturing, the better it is, the faster, the more effective. And also kind of there's a lot of issues, which is off topic of wearables, but the social impact of what's going on with manufacturing, urban manufacturing, specifically in New York City, you know, saving the industry. The garment district has a great history. We need to move it to Brooklyn, get out of Midtown, and do vertical integration, do, you know, work on manufacturing process technologies as much to get us to have the US be at the forefront of this. It's something that we have a great history with. And it's that we're, as a nation, sort of in the process of reclaiming it.
Such a pain point for designers and trying to develop your brand.
And if you're a mid-sized brand, you can't afford to go overseas. You can't make their minimum. So it's this kind of valley of death for designers.
It's amazing that you're giving that advice. It really is tough. And Scott, you built your brand without a single investor, right?
That's correct.
Is that something that you thought from the beginning you wanted to do?
No, I just assumed that you had to have investors. You know, especially to grow big, and the perception of success was you had to be massive, and in order to be massive, you need investors. So when I first started my business, I started looking for investors, and at that time, I was fortunate enough to meet with a guy who did nothing other than angel invest in companies, and he looked at my financials, and he said, "You don't need an investor." And I look back on that conversation, on that day, his name was Barry Moltz, and that was the best conversation I ever had, because I have saved so much time by not, you know, going out, reaching out, looking for money, and doing further raises, and I have no bosses other than, you know, we've been cash flow positive since our second year in business, and we're the first clothing brand to sell on the internet direct to consumer, which has enabled us to have a double margin that you otherwise wouldn't have, enabled us to have a relationship with our customers and not have to deal with big box resellers that, you know, insist that you take, you know, buybacks and co-ops and all those things. And I've never looked back. I do have one other investor, it's my wife. We're 50-50 partners, and I did go on Shark Tank, you know, with the intent of getting a lot of publicity, which we did, and
Marketing always helps.
yeah, 6 million plus viewers, and had an opportunity to turn down $1 million investment from a couple of the sharks, and told them they were out. Made some very memorable TV in doing so. But yeah, you know, I would encourage everyone not to think that success is defined by being a $100 million brand. You can be a $10 million brand and not be that dirty little word called a lifestyle business, and make a very successful business and have a lifestyle that, you know, in my case, enabled me to do what I'm able to do.
It's amazing. Well, I think we are running out of time, but people might have some questions. I wanted to leave some time.
Do you want to just run some slides? Do you want to run a few slides? I know Adam.
I think
We can, I mean,
we're
it's up to you,
okay. I mean, do
see,
people
yeah.
have some questions? Yeah.
Do people want to see things?
Yep. Well, so one next band holds 5 mods at any one time, but you can have it. It's collectible. It's like a smart Pandora charm bracelet. So We have many different styles that we'll be coming out with, and some will have pre-baked hacks and special content on them. But in terms of hacking them, it's very, very easy to do. If you know the word when and do, you can create a hack. So our interface is just you click when, I double tap, then do, turn on my coffee machine. So it's very, very simple to do. And we work with all the IoT integrators such as If This Then That and Little Bits and partners like that.
I think you make a really good point, too, to thinking about the sort of culture of hacking. And one of the things that I struggle with a lot is, this sort of how do fashion designers start to understand technology and what the possibilities are for integration, right? They'll come to me not really understanding anything about material structures, anything about electronics, PCBs, et cetera, wanting to do, and not understanding what's possible. And I think that these kinds of outlets allow this kind of cross-fertilization and conversation so that, not trying to turn all fashion designers into electrical engineers, but if they have like an understanding of basically how to prescribe what can happen and what's realistic and what they want to see in a design, I think we're going to have a whole new generation of products. And I think that and the same thing with technologists, kind of learning actually how fashion is made.
Yeah, working
It's a big
together.
deal.
So we're really in the early days of wearables, and there are no big brands that are like the aggregator of wearables. Can you guys talk about your vision of how the industry is going to evolve over the next year? And is there a holy grail, if we could only do X, it would be 10 times as big an industry?
Well, actually, when I started SCOTTeVEST, I had intended to do exactly what you said under the brand name technology-enabled clothing. We actually have patents for the incorporation of wires in clothing. And what I had hoped to do was license this concept to other clothing companies, but also under the umbrella of technology-enabled clothing, take a variety of the things we're talking about here, from all aspects to make that information available to other brands. I found that I couldn't convince the clothing companies 15 years ago when I started of the viable nature of this. So I had to form my own company, this awkward name brand called SCOTTeVEST, solely for the proof of concept, and while I was waiting for the patent to issue. But I don't believe, other than some of the things that you might be doing, that put it all under one roof, that would make it simpler.
I think if we look at wearable technology not as like a trend, we look at wearable technology as where technology is going, then it gives us an entirely different view of the market. It's not just about can clothing integrate some wires. Wearable technology is technology proximate to the body, which is where computation is going. So we used to have computers that sat on a desk separate from us, and now we have computers in our pockets, and now we have computers on our watches, and they do a much better job the closer they get to us because they learn from us and respond to us. So in a decade, all technology will be wearable technology, period. How we get there is an interesting question.
So before you guys go,
Can I just answer that?
I'm going to ask Warren to take the document camera and go down and show us on the big screen what you're wearing and how it works if you're wearing. If not, just show us something. So
It's show and tell.
show and tell time. Scott, you want to start with
Enough talk, we want to see some stuff.
I don't know where it's showing.
show us what you got.
Okay, so this is a new jacket. It's called the Enforcer jacket. It's actually designed for law enforcement. It's got like 28 different pockets and compartments and removable sleeves. And if you step away from the fact that I just pulled a laptop out of it, it actually is, contrary to what you might think, quite attractive. And I have a Q-zip with a couple pockets here and 11 pockets in my hidden cargo pants. And otherwise, if you met me walking down the street, you would not know that I had all these pockets.
So what the guys here say to you, Scott, when you go through the bag check?
Oh, it's perfect. You just take off your SCOTTeVEST and put it right through the X-ray. It saves you a ton of time, and it gives you that freedom of knowing that you have all the things on you, whether it be electronics or poop bags for your dog or medication or leashes or all the things on you. It gives you a freedom that you otherwise wouldn't have, and it eliminates that gadget dance that we all do when we think we've misplaced our phone for a moment.
This is show, not tell. That we want to see something.
Okay, well, it's dark. I mean, it's dark.
Freeze it.
Okay, so
That's what we want.
there we go.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
you have like an ability to put your cell phone.
This is good TV now.
I don't know that we-
Okay,
So
on
you
to
can-
Adam. Adam, you wearing yours?
So,
Yeah.
and then the icons and places, and I got RFID protector pockets, and and pen pockets, and a variety of things. So.
Awesome.
All
Excellent.
right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Head to Adam. Go down to Adam,
All right.
and let's take a look at
All
that
right. You want
next
to switch?
band.
Okay. So I'll turn my band around. Let's see. Can you see? So here is an example of the next band and the app itself. So yeah. So for example, when I wanted to create a hack, I just can double tap, for example, there and create a hack. Yeah. So it's my phone is dying. Unexpected. So, for example, when I want to create a hack, when I was talking about the ease of creating one, I just press create a hack. And when, for example, I double tap, triple tap, meet my activity goals, whatever I want, let's just choose double tap, then do, then I can be a music controller, or I can control my home, or I can control my activity, or I can add content. And we can, attach any different piece of content to this. So as soon as I snap it on, I get a new piece of content, whatever content I may have associated to that.
That was cool.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cool.
Amanda, you want a model for us?
Yeah, no, I'll do a little demo actually of
boy.
Thesis. So watch
Oh,
this.
this is good.
So we were talking about how these are really designed from scratch as a finite element analysis model, like looking at the woman's body as if this is a bridge that carries the body. There's dynamic loading. There's the kind of the biomechanics of the foot, and all these things. It doesn't look like a different kind of shoe, but it has a whole different kind of density mapping and balance structure, and very very tuned in, really shaving away at the models. Can I move this for a second to use this?
Yeah.
So just one way to actually show this. I mean, the main way is to feel it. So if anybody wants to try this on. No, I mean, put it on your foot. But you can see. So normal stilettos, right? Lateral stability is a really big thing. It's really damaging to your ankles, and it has a lot of stress as you're going through your day. So normal stilettos, they knock over, right? There's absolutely no lateral stability, right? Boom, 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 right? So, and then this is Thesis. So, and that's, you don't know that from the outside. So these are the small things that will make a huge difference in terms of, wearability and, comfort of the product. I also have Ringly On, which is a fashion-first wearable. Nobody knows that this is a technology, basically. And it has inside of it a vibrating motor and a Bluetooth antenna connects to your phone and an LED under this diamond right here. And this is a very simple device, single use. Worked with the founder, Christina Mercado, very early on in 2013. And this was a device for when you're not wearing your vest, because women don't always have their phone on their body. Usually it's in your purse somewhere else. This can actually notify you, and you can set it to, say, just an emergency contact, like a babysitter, or you can set it to your Twitter feed, to Uber, to whatever you want, and have your own coded messaging system, either fully invisible, that's just vibration, or, oh, there, I just tapped it. You can see the LED going off, or have an LED that other people can also see. So, awesome. Two of my favorite words.
All right. Well, this is Muse. It is a piece of beautiful wearable technology. I'm both a neuroscientist and a fashion designer. That's how you get this slim, sleek, clinical-grade EEG in a tiny little form factor. Slips on just like a pair of glasses, just like this. And when I started doing product testing, I'd go out and I'd walk down the streets and see if people looked at me strange. Or I'd walk into a shoe store and say, what do you think of the technology on my head? And she'd look at me and say, you look cute, honey. I don't know what you're talking about. So for us, it was really about making incredible technology with amazing machine learning and really deep tech and neuroscience that also is fashionable and easy to wear. And it's also about fashion from the inside. So my mission was to help everybody quiet that little voice inside your head that says, I don't look good enough. I'm not going to be good at that. I am too fat, or my hair looks stupid. Those little voices that plague us every day, that erode our confidence and keep us from being the beautiful, shining beings that you are. So with technology like this, you can learn to become beautiful from the inside and project it out.
Thank you so much. Excellent. We'll hang out for a little bit. If anybody has more questions, come find us.
Anything else? Fire up.